Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'm going to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father, the Most High, our Creator and our power, who the world ignorantly calls God. His name is Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, our Lord, our Savior, and our Deliverer, the Messiah, who the world ignorantly calls JC. His name is Yahweh Shai. Call Halayamla, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Mechakodash. I want to give double honors unto the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Salutations, peace, blessings, and safety be unto the hopeful elect out there. This lesson will be entitled, Humility is an honorable trait. Okay, humility is an honorable trait. And if you can see the thumbnail, I put the definition of the word humility, which is via Google. And it says, let me see, matter of fact. Yeah, it says, a modest or low view of one's own importance. Okay, a modest and low view of one's own importance. Shalom, so understanding what that means, having a low view of your own importance. That is the key in this thing of ours. Us acknowledging that we're nothing. Without Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai, we are nothing. Anything that we may have, we acknowledge that the Lord gave it. Whatever the Lord's will may be, that's what it is. But it's not that simple with most people. It's not that simple to just think of this. To just think about how low you are. And it's not saying look at yourself as like a piece of trash or anything like that. That's not what it's saying. It's not saying to hate yourself. That's not what it's saying. But it's acknowledging and understanding that you are insignificant. The Lord don't need none of us. The Lord does not need any of us. We're not owed anything. Everything that we have is a privilege. It's a blessing. It's a gift. You should be grateful for everything that you have, right? You should be grateful for the times when you up, the times when you doing well. And you should also be grateful for the times when you struggling, the times where you going through, some hardship. Because at the end of the day, hey, everything happened for a reason, man. And people always say that saying, right? Everything happened for a reason, but they don't really believe that. They don't really understand what that means, the true definition of everything happens for a reason, because they don't understand the reasoning behind everything. Okay? Everything is according to the Lord's will. But again, it's not that simple with a lot of people, because a lot of people, they take themselves too seriously, man. All right? And you even have that within Israel. For those who know that they Israelites, those who supposed to understand humility, they're supposed to understand being of a low stature, right? Because that's really what it means, right? You got this saying in the West Indies, right? You amongst the Jake and the Caribbeans, right? They say small up yourself, particularly so-called Jamaicans. They say small up yourself, which means what? To humble yourself. Okay? It means to lower your stature, to make yourself small. That's what it means to humble yourself. But you have people walking around with their chest out, nose up, and head on high. And there's a time for that, man. Right now is most definitely not the time to be walking around with that puffed up demeanor. The Lord can humble you real quick, man, and we've seen it. We've seen it happen so many times of people getting proud, women and men. It don't matter. Women getting proud and then turning around, and that smirk or that smug smile, that proud look, it gets wiped off of their face because the Lord humbles them. I did a lesson recently on that chick, B. Simone, prime example of a woman being humble, which it can be worse, but it was a humbling nonetheless. Of pretty much that chick just talking about she don't date guys who work a 9 to 5. She got to date a boss guy, a boss dude, a CEO type nigga, and this and that. But then she turned around and she holding back tears, down there crying on the camera, talking about, oh, I can't shop at some designer store I forget the name of it, but she's crying, pretty much getting emotional because she can't shop at that store no more like she used to. She got to shop at H&M and pretty much lower her standards and her means of living, you know, whatever. But, you know, that's just one aspect of it, man. And you got certain guys as well. They forget where they came from, right? In Israel, they forget where they came from because they came from not being known. Nobody knows who they are, which is, it's fine. It's not, you know, that don't make you more special or more valuable than the next man just because more people know you or because your name is more relevant, so to speak. That don't make you more valuable or more important than the next man. But some people seem to think so because that's what society has taught them. The society has taught them that the more people know you, the more important you are. The more your name ring bells, the more valuable you are. Which, you know, that's just you know, that's just a foolish mindset. Okay? That's just a foolish mindset. That's not the way you should be thinking, man, because that's vanity. Okay? But anyway, there's many different ways to be proud. There's many different ways to be humble. Right? You can be proud and look down on others because you have a certain amount of money. You can look down on others because you drive a certain type of car. You can look down on others because you wear a certain type of clothes. You can be humble and you can have all of those things, right? Because you can being humble don't only mean being, you know, without, because you can have a lot of money. You can have a lot of so-called material possessions and still be humble. That's the thing about it, man. Humility don't come with possessions, right? Humility starts before the possessions. Okay? But that mindset is something that we should take and carry it on. Not just from a worldly point of view, but especially in this truth, man. But I'm gonna get a few scriptures, man, going into that. I'm gonna start off with the book of Sirach, chapter 11 and verse 4 in the GNT. It says, "Don't make fun of someone who has fallen on hard times and is dressed in rags." And that goes for particular Israelites that call us the, you know, Great Millstone, beginning with the Apostles on down. They call us the bum camp, right? They call us that because pretty much all of these other camps outside of Great Millstone and, you know, our affiliates, they got color coordination. They have these they pretty much got uniforms that they wear, you know, different garments with assigned colors and shit. You know, you got Genesis with the green, you got IUIC with the purple and gold, you got ISUPK with the all black. You have other camps that got colorways for their garments, you know, or for the t-shirts that they wear, you know, because some camps, they don't wear garments, they wear t-shirts with fringes. Okay, and they had this whole costume thing going on. But, you know, Great Millstone, you know, you got brothers that have wives that make garments that, you know, they brothers pretty much just buy fabric and put the border of blue on them and put fringes on them and, you know, call it a day, man. But it's looked down upon because it's not the choice raiment, it's not the choice material and fabric like they wear. It's not the most expensive thing out there, you know. So you have certain camps, particularly IUIC, that call us bums. And this is verbatim, you know, this is quoting what they say. They call us bums because of the type of clothes we wear. I'll never forget, and I mention this every now and then, but we was at camp one time, and this dude, he had came up to the camp, and he was asking questions. Brothers was having discourse with him, going back and forth with him, you know, explaining the scriptures, breaking it down to him. And I remember one of the brothers was in the process of speaking, and he just he couldn't focus. I could see that he couldn't focus, but he interrupted one of the brothers and was like, "I'm sorry, like I just can't take y'all brothers serious because of what y'all wearing. You know, y'all all got different garments on. Y'all not matching." You know, he was pretty much getting on one of the brothers' garments because it was a little dingy, a little dirty. You know, brothers got burn marks from the incense and sage and stuff like that in their garments, and it's not all up to par of what people expect us to be. You know, the soft raiment, the expensive clothing, and, you know, so on and so forth. And he literally said that. He said, I can't take y'all serious like I take these other camps serious. Which, you know, a person like that is a reprobate. You know, he's void of judgment, void of wisdom, because he's stuck on the outward appearance, when you're told via the scriptures not to focus on the outward appearance, because the Most High, he don't deal with the outward appearance. He deals with the inward man, the inner man, your spirit. If your spirit is pure, if your spirit is sincere, the Lord will deal with you, man. Hey, but the Most High has chosen those things which are not to confound the things which are, the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. The things that are disregarded, the things that are not taken seriously, they're not regarded as important or significant. The Lord uses those things, because that's how the Lord's glory is going to come, through things that are not highly lauded or praised or regarded among the world. That's what the Lord uses. He uses the underdog or the lowly. That's how the Lord always dealt. He dealt with low numbers, and he dealt with the insignificant. Okay? Because otherwise, if the Lord did use those men in these grand, big, huge churches with 1,000 people in the seats, and the precious, you know, fabrics, and the nice watches, and the alligator shoes, and all of those type of things, those men will take on the glory that the Lord brings on to themselves. They would take that credit for themselves, for the way that they speak so brilliantly, and, you know, so elegantly. They would take that glory on to themselves. And the Most High said, I will not give my glory to another, neither my praise to graven images, man. Because men, people tend to make other men idols. They tend to idolize men, and the Lord ain't dealing with that. So the Lord is choosing men that's going to be looked at. Oh, man, I know you from around the way, man. You ain't dressed nice. My clothes look better than yours. Why would I listen to you on how I should live my life when you ain't even dressed? You know, you ain't driving nothing crazy. You ain't pulling up in no foreign car. You ain't got no big following. Y'all out here in the heat. Where y'all church at? Y'all out here in the cold. Y'all ain't got nobody out here listening to y'all, so why should I listen to you? Y'all, look how y'all dressed. Why should I take y'all seriously? You know, and that's just the thing, man. The Lord is bringing the message in the plainest way possible, so you can focus on the message and not the messenger. Okay, but not to get off topic, just going into that humility, man. And it just said, don't make fun of someone who has fallen on hard times and is dressed in rags. Okay, because just as somebody is on hard times and they may be dressed in that lowly, you know, dingy, dirty clothing, or, you know, they may be wearing the same clothes over and over again. They don't even necessarily got to be dirty. You might just be wearing the same clothes and washing the same outfit over and over again. That don't mean you're more important or more valuable than that person. That don't give you a right to look down on that person. Okay, especially, you know, considering your fellow Israelite. It says the Lord does wonderful things that human beings never notice. Okay, the Lord works in the background. Okay, and just as you see somebody lowly, right, the Lord can bring somebody your way to test your character, to test how you going to react to that type of person, man. Are you going to be proud and look down on this man? Are you going to look down on this man and, you know, pretty much turn up your nose at this man? What is that about? Is that a glitch or something? Anyway, verse 5, it says, many are the kings who have ended their careers sitting on the ground. Okay? So it's nothing for the Lord to bring you up, and it's nothing for him to bring you down. All right? And again, as I said in the beginning, man, whatever position you may be in is because the Lord put you in that position. All right? You may be given a certain opportunity, right? You may be put in a higher position so the Lord can test you. Just as, you know, you're put in low positions and you put in difficult positions to be tested, you can also be put in a high position to be tested. All right? It says again, many are the kings who have ended their careers sitting on the ground. Which, you sitting on the ground, that's a position of lowliness. That's a position of humility. You don't have no choice but to be humble when you be brought to the ground. All right. And that's what you call being abased, man. So the scriptures tell you, those who exalt themselves are abased, and those who are abased are eventually exalted. It says, verse 6, many are the rulers. Let me continue verse 5. I'm going to read it again. Many are the kings who have ended their careers sitting on the ground, while their crowns were worn by those no one had heard of before. All right. So you can be replaced. And that's a prime example of the Lord don't need you. The Lord don't need any of us, man. You can be replaced. Okay. Especially, talking about those who get proud, those who consider themselves prophets, the teachers, and they get a certain following, a certain amount of people following them. They may have those followers sending them money. They get a certain amount of women following them, and they start to get puffed up. Okay, and they let it get to their head. They forget where they came from. They forget the mission at hand. Not to get sidetracked by these different factors, man. They get off track. All right, and they don't stick to the course, man. And that's how a lot of guys are tested. They forget. You know what? Let me keep myself out of this. Let me not let this following or if I start getting a little bit of money, let me not let this get to my head. They stop praying. They forget to pray to the Lord for more humility, more more balance when they start to get towards a different level, man. And they become unbalanced. They deter off the track. It says, many are the rulers who have suffered disgrace. Many are the famous people who have fallen into the power of others. Okay, so yeah, you can be replaced, man. You can be replaced, real quick. The scriptures tell you that, the harvest is plenteous, but the laborers are few. Right? Meaning there's few men working. But that's all the Lord needs, man. The Lord only needs a handful to fulfill the mission, to carry on the job, man. And if you don't want to do the job, just like any company that you work at, just because you may quit a job or because you may get fired because you ain't being productive enough in that job, the point being, whether you stick around or whether you leave, the job is going to get done regardless. The company is going to continue to move forward. This business that we are part of is the Lord's business. This job, the job that the Lord has set up to get done, it's going to get done regardless. All right. And we pray that the Lord keeps us in this thing and that we're part of the ones that are laboring to get the job done. Right. But the point is, the Lord don't need any of us, man. Just like at a job, if you quit, you feel like, this job ain't interesting no more, or you feel like I want something better, something else got my attention. I want to go try this job or this career out. I don't want to work here no more. Okay, deuces. The job's still gonna get done. The Lord is gonna replace you with somebody who's more worthy and more appreciative of that position. If you fall off or you stop being productive, you start slacking, you start getting lukewarm or cold, you don't feel like this is something that's important, that you have to keep that fire under you to fulfill, hey, the Lord will, just like a boss. You start falling off, you start slacking, yeah, you may get a warning, you may get rolled up, you may get pulled to the office. And if you still, are being unproductive, you're going to get removed from that job, and then you're going to be replaced. But the job is going to get done. All right. So that's the importance of staying humble, man, in this thing, especially as we move forward closer to the coming of the Lord. Staying humble, man. Ain't no reason, ain't no need to get proud, ain't no need to get all boastful. And listen, man, our lives is as a shadow, as a vapor. You can be gone tomorrow. So what are you getting proud for? You know, I never understand it, man. But it's ultimately it's a spirit that the Lord put on these people, man. Proverbs 18:12. Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty, right? The word haughty just means proud. It's another word. And before honor is humility, okay? So before we get to that position that we all deep down inside we want to get to, right? Because Jake loved that position of authority, you know, because that's what we meant to be. We meant to be in authority. We meant to be in a position of sovereignty and on the top. But right now we ain't on top. Right now this is the low that we gotta take, right? We gotta be low before we can be on high. The Lord has to put us on high. You can't put yourself on high. That's why you shouldn't desire to be in those chief seats. You shouldn't desire to have, you know, a whole lot of money, you know, to have power. This ain't the time for that. I would much rather have those things when I'm in my right mind fully. I'm talking about in a new body that is unable to sin, that's unable to have wicked thoughts, is unable to be enticed by sin, and, you know, unable to get proud, and can actually utilize the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be productive. And humility, right? Humility is not only beneficial for yourself, but it's beneficial for others, man. Just as pride is not only hurtful to yourself, but pride can hurt others as well, okay? So humility is good for everybody. So when we finally in a kingdom where we're all able to be humble and we're all able to consider one another, it's going to flourish, because everybody's going to be considerate of one another, and everything is going to move smoothly, man. And that's all going to be based or you know, rooted in, you know, the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. All of that is going to follow, man. Okay? But this world, the way that people act, the way that they talk, the way that they move, it's all based off of the person who's ruling, right? Because as the people are, as the ruler of the city is, so are they that dwell therein. So the pride that you see on these people is a reflection of the rulers. Okay, the inconsiderate, immorality, you know, all of these the dishonorable characteristics that you see in people, it's a reflection of those who's in rulership, man. All right, Sirach 3:18, it says, "The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord." Okay, the greater you are, the higher position you get in, the more you're exalted, the more humble you are supposed to become. And we see an example, a living example in the apostles, beginning with Apostle Tahar on down. We see a living example of that. Okay, the best example is Yahushua, right? Yahushua was the prime example of the greater you are, the more humble yourself. Because as Yahushua walked the earth, he could have walked around boasting in the fact that he's the son of the Most High and that he's beloved of the Most High. He could have walked around accepting those crowns that men tried to place on his head, and, you know, he could have been lording over people and, you know, just getting everything that he wanted. But he was humble. Yahushua washed his disciples' feet. Okay, that was an act of humility right there. How many of us would do that, right? So yeah, man, that's the main example that we try to live after is Yahushua, man. So again, it says, "The greater thou art, the more humble thyself, and thou shalt find favor before the Lord." Because just as pride is hateful before the Most High, right? A proud look is one of the things the Lord hates. The opposite of that is humility. Okay, humbleness. Right? What was the definition? It said a modest or low view of one's own importance, putting yourself aside, you know, denying yourself. And that's what it takes to truly serve Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. You got to deny yourself, put yourself out of the equation, man. Though we're all laboring for our own salvation, for our own deliverance, this ain't about us, because this ain't our story. We ain't seeking out, you know, some kind of carnal glory. Like the glory that we're seeking is not the glory that the world is seeking, if that makes sense. We are seeking out glory, but it's not so we can be walking around boasting on each other, one-upping each other, because that's the glory of the world, right? You get a certain amount of money, you flexing your money, you flexing your cars, and, you want to show off your lifestyle and show how much better you're doing than the next man. Hey, but the scriptures tell you that actually it was Yahushua that said it. A man's life consists of not in the abundance of the things which he possesses. Okay? So it's not about any of that. The material, tangible things, it's not about that. But your character is what really makes you who you are. Your character is a reflection of your spirit, man. If your spirit ain't right, your character gonna be off. Right? Like the scriptures tell you, man, if your body, or how to say, if your eye be full of light, your whole body also, just roughly paraphrasing. But if your eye be dark, your whole body shall be full of darkness. It goes into the mind's eye, your spirit. Okay? Let me continue on, verse 19. Many are in high place and of renown, which means, in those high positions, in those upper brackets, like Jake like to say, oh, this is a different bracket. You ain't making this type of money. You ain't, whatever. It says, but mysteries are revealed unto the meek. Okay? Mysteries are revealed to the meek, the humble, the lowly. For the power of the Lord is great, and he is honored of the lowly, right? Because a proud person is not going to honor the Heavenly Father. The Heavenly Father is not going to be in the mind of a proud person. People who are proud, they only care about themselves. They only care about what others think too. They're not considering how am I looked at in the eyes of the Lord. Am I doing too much? Am I being proud? Am I being harsh? Am I rude? Am I humble? They're not taking the time out in their day to consider their ways. They're not examining themselves. So how could they possibly be seeking to please the Lord when they're not examining themselves? But someone who's lowly is. Hey, the water for posting it. Brother posted it. Matthew 6:22. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, right, which means, this word single goes into simplicity, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness? Yeah, man. Because you're going to know a man by his fruits, right? Because as men are likened unto trees, and trees bear fruit, right? The type of fruit a tree bears will tell you what kind of tree that is. The type of work, the type of conduct, the type of actions you see come from a person tells you what kind of person that is, because a person's actions is a reflection of their mind. Your mind is the spirit at the end of the day. So if you see people, because you got niggas out there they play this fake humble role, right? They go to the hood, or they go to areas of poverty and say, hey, turn the camera on. I'm about to get these homeless people some money. I'm about to give them some food. And they go around putting on this act, giving food and money to the homeless. I seen niggas throw money in the air and watch homeless people pick it up like dogs, or like birds eating some damn seeds on the ground. Damn near fighting over the dollars that's falling to the ground. That's not real humility, man. Okay? Because they only doing it for views. They only doing it for more praise, for more attention. And that's not an honorable thing, man. You actually you corny for that. That's lame, man. People that turn the camera on. If you're gonna do something, like that out of the kindness of your heart, hey man, keep the cameras off. Don't nobody gotta see that, man. That should be between you, whoever you doing it for, and the Most High. You don't gotta show the world. If somebody decides to record that, then hey, you can't do nothing about that. But hey, turn the camera on. I'm about to give these niggas some money. That shit corny, man. But you have people that play humble. But you can fake to people all day. You can put on this front, you can put on this act and fool people all day, but you can't fool the Most High. And at the end of the day, you a piece of shit. You lying to yourself. Humility can't be faked, man. Someone who's actually truly humble is going to show. Somebody who's proud, they may try to cover it up, but it's going to show. Okay? Your true character is going to show regardless. Okay? Romans 12:3. For I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as the Most High have dealt to every man the measure of faith. Okay? Yeah, and the point is, man, don't think too highly of yourself. Don't think more of yourself than you ought to think. Because that's when you begin to fall into pride. And when you begin to fall into pride, you begin to separate from the Most High. So that's why we all should be examining ourselves every day, man, to make sure am I getting proud? Am I acting proud? You know, because sometimes you may be proud and not even know it. You may have a conversation with a brother or somebody, and something you say may come off proud. You know, in your mind or in your intentions may not be that, but the acknowledgement, it counts. You know, for you to be like, you know what, did that come out wrong, or did I say something, you know, in a way that was offensive? You know, because some people they don't consider that. It's just like, oh well. And you know, I've been guilty of that, and I had to you know, stop myself. Like, man, let me, you know, because hey, if you think about it, man, hey, the way you say something goes a long way. You know, sometimes you may have good intentions with what you say and when you're having a conversation, but sometimes it may come out in a different tone, or you know, it may come out too fast or whatever, and it comes off wrong. Okay, and part of examining yourself is being mindful of that, being considerate, putting yourself in others' shoes, and seeing how you would like how you're treating others, how you would accept how somebody else is talking, or how you're talking to somebody else, rather, excuse me. Okay? But yeah, man, you know, don't think too highly of yourself, because when you start to do that, you start to lose. Okay? Let me get a couple more. 1 Peter 5:6. It says, humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of the Most High, that he may exalt you in due time. So that exaltation, right, that lifting up, it comes from the Lord. You can't exalt yourself. Because when you exalt yourself, right, that's the opposite of humility. The definition of humility, as I already read it, it's the let me see. Matter of fact, yeah, I keep forgetting it. But it says a modest or low view of one's own importance. A modest or low view of one's own importance, yourself. So if it says, humble yourself under the mighty hand of the Most High, that he may exalt you in due time. But if you're exalting yourself, you placing high value on your own importance. Now, it's not, again, it's not saying look at yourself as a piece of trash, or, you know, to not take care of yourself. It's one thing to know your value, right, and not be walking around trying to prove it to everybody, than how people do, and they want to prove something to the world, man. Yeah, we know we in a special position, man. We know we're special. We know we're blessed. We know we highly favored. But we're not gonna walk around in a boastful type of spirit, a boastful type of mentality, man. That's not something that people want to be around. No, that's something that, you know, nobody likes a proud person, man. I know I don't. All right, but you can understand your worth. You can know what you're capable of. You can know your values, but just let it show. You know, you don't have to go trying to prove nothing or trying to one up the next man. You don't got to do all that, man. That's not honorable. Your value is going to show in the way that you conduct yourself. You don't have to say nothing. Okay? And you know, that's something that can't be taught, man. That has to be in you. It just got to be in you, man. And most people, they don't have that characteristic. All right? You know, but just pay attention to how people act, man. You'll see it. All right, let me get this last one and close out. It's Sirach 10:31. It says, he that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty? And we talking about great riches, right? But you have those who even, they touch a little bit of money, not even really enough to be even considered rich, but they get to a certain point, right? Get to a certain level, and then in all that humility, all the everything that you had to endure, you coming up, you before you actually got to that point, you lose yourself, right? And it's like if you like that with this, and you up, so to speak, right? You got this proud mentality. You looking down on people. You don't want to eat. You don't want you don't want to eat the type of food you used to eat, which it's a balance to it. I'm not saying if you used to eat noodles and canned beans and shit like that, oh, you got to still eat that type of food. But I'm just saying, like, you feel like, oh, I only want to eat at 5-star restaurants now. I don't want to eat, I don't want to eat at Chipotle, shit like that. Hey, that ain't it, man. But because you got people like that, right? But yeah, man. Let me like I said, he that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? Because it's not what you have that that shows who you are. If you an asshole and you broke, right? You broke. You ain't really got no money, but you an asshole. You stingy. You a thief. You looking for every opportunity to get over on the next person. How the hell is you gonna be when you get money? Because more money equals more resources. More resources equals more power. So if you get in a position where you're able to do more, you able to get away with more, how much more would you want to get away with? The same with, the mentality of being humble, being in the spirit of humility. If you humble when you lowly, right? You ain't really got nothing, but whatever you able to do to look out for your brother, you do it. Whatever you able to do to contribute to your neighbor, you do it. How much more would you be considerate and charitable and selfless with more when you're able to do more? So that humility goes a long way. It's an honorable trait. It's something that's pleasing to the Lord, man. All right, but Lord willing, I pray this was edifying. I'm gonna go ahead and close it out with that. And Lord willing, again, it was edifying, and I'm gonna give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Mechakodas. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations, peace, blessings, and safety unto the hopeful elect. And DTA of Abba Ball. Kwame Ashala. Till next time, Shalom.